Welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette, featuring sysadmin expert Don Pizzette, DevOps engineer Justin Dennison, security specialist Daniel Lowry, and Peter.
Hello and welcome to Technado. I'm your host, Peter Van Rysdam, joined as always by the whole Technado crew. We've got Justin Dennison over there. Justin, how's it going?
It's going fairly well. I'm right side up. It's still 1 million degrees in here. This room smells bad.
Status quo. All right. When you leave, it smells fine.
I don't think it does. I mean, don't get me wrong. The stink that's in here definitely came from me, but I'll leave it behind.
Oh, okay. All right. Good to know. Yeah. And Daniel's up there. Daniel, how's it going?
I'm good. For whatever reason, you know how my brain works, it does random things. It thought, we all need cool, titles, nicknames, like Justin Gooch Fan Dennison. I thought that'd be fun.
Yeah, it's right over here. It's running fairly well.
We will work on that. And then we've got the namesake of the show, Don Pizzette. Don, how's it going?
I am doing great. Really excited about this week. This is the first week where I had to actively look to pick a security article because there were so many non-security things going on.
Exciting.
I don't know if I believe you.
Yeah, that's a lie.
Yeah, we'll see.
We're going to hook him up to the lie detector.
Just kidding. This is all spearfishing.
More is like, a lie detector has determined that is a lie.
Yeah. You guys need to stay tuned for the tech section. You won't believe number 3.
Florida drivers will never believe what
That's right.
you're about to see. Well, we have a guest today with us as well who has been listening intently, Mr. Ben Brennan, who is the founder and CEO of QSTAC. How you doing, Ben?
How's it going, guys? Stoked to be here.
Good, and we had a great little talk beforehand about all the cool guitars you have hanging on the wall behind you. So that's a lot of fun. But we want to focus a little bit more on the technology side of things. So why don't we get to know Ben in our first segment, rapid fire questions.
Who do you work for?
What's new?
Who are you?
What's happening?
What's wrong with you?
All right, Ben, this is a 5-minute segment. You have 45 seconds to a minute to answer each question. You go over that time. Peter's going to buzz you. We're going to move on. Peter's going to take our first question.
All right, Ben, so I got a little confused reading about QSTAC's history because it's a product you created and it's the company that you're at now, but it sounds like you used QSTAC or the QSTAC methodology in the past. So can you explain a little bit about what QSTAC is exactly and how it works?
Yeah, definitely. So, I actually, QSTAC Inc., I guess, as a enterprise product, actually, we just launched in October when I left Verizon Media. But before that, we actually used a prototype of it at Box and Verizon Media. And I actually tried to use it at Twitter. And it's really thanks to Twitter that I have the company. I was working IT at Twitter back when there were 300 people. And it was 3 of us on the IT team. And I was like, CSAT's not very scientific. Maybe we should come up with a brand new metric that completely is actually accurate and gives actionable data so we can really know what the customer experience is. And they passed and said, no, we'll just do a CSAT survey. So when I left, I was able to make that, sign the inventions agreement. And we had a great run of success at Box and at Verizon Media and Yahoo, and now we're using it everywhere. Basically, long story short, it's a tool that measures the acronym quality, speed, technical knowledge, approachability, communication. Crazy research and algorithms went into it to make it actually accurate. And then it also tells you what to do to improve those things so you can actually have measurable success and not just kind of instinctual.
So you've alluded to this a little bit. Starting your own thing can be, I know for me, I would just sweat and cry. But at some point, you knew, I have to make the jump. I have to get this thing off the ground. You alluded to that a little bit, but was there a moment where you went, no, I just have to do this. This is the only thing that makes sense?
Right. I'm with you. I'm not a serial entrepreneur or one of those dudes that reads entrepreneur blogs all day. So I have put most of the past 8 months crying and snuggled up to myself. But we used QSTAC at Box. It was 1,300 people. So we were able to transform the IT culture pretty quickly, in a few quarters. But then, I really just used it as a tool to help me out be a good IT director. When we went to Yahoo, there was a 20-year-old culture that we had to transform. And when it worked there, I became a believer. I'm like, wow, this really has legs. And then Yahoo got acquired by Verizon, which if you've been acquired by a huge, massive corporate overlord, you know what that does to the team. And then we took that whole team up to world-class customer experience in the IT org. And after that, I was like, yeah, this definitely works. And I think I wrote a book that a bunch of people have been passing around. And so that allows me to meet people. And when I basically asked around, they were like, yeah, dude, I want to use that too. So we wanted to make it a product and share it up.
All right, now your resume includes things like Senior Director of IT at Verizon Media, Global IT Strategy for Yahoo. You've obviously built and managed large teams in IT, but your degree is in psychology. So did that come into play as far as like how you created this methodology?
Oh yeah, 100%. Definitely. So in psychology, we learn a lot about essentially how horrible most statistics are, and particularly self-report data, which is what surveys are. So when I, especially when I got bigger jobs and I'm like, I'm responsible, to run a huge org to support 25,000 people. And all I have is a CSAT to go for. Like, it just wasn't mathematically or scientifically sound enough for me to base my decisions on. And so we learned that, if you're really, really good and do tons of research and are really, rigid on your research and your methodology at the beginning, you actually can get good data about, things like customer experience. But none of the tools that I found really did the trick. So that kind of gave me the, just years of grad school and years of therapy, both as a patient and as a practitioner, just taught me that, hey, we need better data. Like, as a therapist, we actually invented something called life math, because I'm a math nerd, where people actually used math to figure out what decisions were bad and good. So I had a history of kind of creating things, and QSTAC was the next step.
Now, Ben, you mentioned your book, right? If I'm not mistaken, it is Badass IT Support. And in this book, Badass IT Support, you talk about the steps that you need to take to become Badass IT Support. Now, in the book, Badass IT Support, what would be the first step that we would want to take to achieve badassery in IT support?
Well, in the book, Badass IT Support, so I just wanted to make sure we said
What's
that
the
enough
title?
times.
Thought we'd plug your book a little bit.
So I didn't catch what we're talking about.
Yeah. So in the book, Badass IT Support, available on Amazon and other places where you buy books, even though that's the only place where you buy books. We go over and basically I tell the story kind of more, I'm on the East Coast now, but more of like a kind of what it's like to be like a Bay Area, like IT support person working at hypergrowth startups and, dealing with the stuff. And obviously, there's a lot of books called like How to Run an Efficient Help Desk or How to Run a Satisfactory, IT improvement program. And so I thought Badass IT Support was a little more on brand for the kind of operation that I wanted. But yeah, I mean, if you want to be a Badass IT Support thing and you don't want to spend money on the book, which I totally understand, basically all you have to do is kind of admit that you could be doing better, which is hard for a lot of us to do. And then once you admit you can do better, just kind of resolve to do better. And if you admit you can do better and you resolve to do better, you'll come to the obvious conclusion that you should actually use, real metrics and science to, do the right thing rather than just trusting your hunches. And that'll lead you on the right path. But I mean, I don't know, buy 10 copies of the book and see what works. That'd be my best advice, to be honest.
I like it.
That is so badass. So my last question for you. So what's the lowest QSTAC score that you've seen so far? And what could I do to make my score lower?
It would be really hard, to be honest. I can't mention the company, obviously, sure. But there was a, it was a big global company, and the Detroit office was, Detroit, is, they're a tough group to begin with, but it was an unstaffed office, very overlooked, and for good reason. They actually, I didn't really think that this was possible, but the QSTAC score technically goes from 100 to negative 100. And they got like a negative 45 or something like that. And I only remember that because I had to rush. We were about to do a presentation for the execs, and I had to rush and reformat all the graphs because I hadn't accounted for what happens when you have these nice little bar graphs and then one line's way down there. So it kind of, if you can picture what that's like, that was my experience. But the good news is when you get a really crap score at the beginning, you're all up and to the right from there, and it makes you look even better. But I think negative 45 was the best one. So you'd really have to pretty much murder someone to beat that. But I believe you can do it, and I I support that.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
All I heard was sandbag at the beginning and everything.
It's not a bad strategy though. I mean, you really like once you can sandbag all you want, but because it's quantified success, like once you see all the other offices blowing past you, at some point, like your nerd competitiveness is just going to kick in, and you're going to be like, fine, I'll do my job good, and then you go up. So
that is the first step now in the second edition of Badass IT Support.
I think he believes in me more than I believe in me.
Put the garret down there, Peter.
All right, let's go ahead and get to our next segment where we're going to actually talk tinfoil hat time.
The moon landing was fake. Paul McCartney's been dead since 1966.
Dogs can't see color.
5G causes syphilis.
Do you understand that?
All right, so I came across an article, and then I found out it was actually written by Ben. And this is, it's entitled, "Are You an IT Flat Earther?" It's on thinkhdi.com, and read through that. And so what is the IT equivalent of being a flat earther?
You know, I would compare it to like back in the Novell NetWare days. There were a lot of NetWare admins who didn't bother learning Windows or Linux, and they just said, no, NetWare is the best, and we're not going to change, and that's what we're going to use. And then most of them ended up out of jobs before too terribly long because the technology field kept moving, and they didn't move with it. So that's what pops into my mind when I hear IT Flat Earther.
Ben, what is the truth?
Well, the truth is out there, and if you can play the X-Files music out there. But in my opinion, IT Flat Earther, I was just trying to think of, now with what I do, like I do like speaking, and I'm like basically in IT sales now. I'm talking to a bunch of CIOs. And so sometimes I'll meet with people and they'll just have an allergy to the truth. And it's sad because like what I found with a lot of teams as far as like, just customer experience, there's so much low hanging fruit that usually if you can just admit that you could do a little better and that there might be some things you don't know, we have huge success with these teams. But to literally quote one CIO I was talking to before, he's like, why would I want a tool that tells me more things to fix? Like, why would I want that? I think, yeah, you would think that. But also, he did get paid a lot more than at least I ever will. So maybe the stock options made it worth that. But I think that was just, to me, I was trying to think of an equivalent of like, someone that, and no offense to flat earthers out there, just in theory, if the flat earth thing was wrong, that's what I'm comparing it to. And it's just, I think an IT flat earther is just someone that, refuses to use science or math to actually, have empirical data to make decisions by.
I feel like the flat earth community makes up a very small but very vocal percentage of people out there. But the person you kind of described sounds like a lot of IT people. Do you think this is a big problem in the IT world?
Right. And I've only been to the IT Flat Earther convention a couple of times, but I can tell you it's widespread. Just kidding. Obviously, it's not a real thing.
That's the Microsoft convention.
I thought it was RSA.
Yeah. So it's going around a lot. And listen, it's not necessarily everyone's fault that thinks that way. And I even say that in the article, like if you are a flat earther, don't worry, we'll talk you down and we'll get you out of it. But you basically just have to like employ some basic science and really just be open to the fact that, you might not, as an amazing, let's say you're an amazing sysadmin and you can like, have record set for like keyboard shortcuts in Vim or something like that. You might be awesome at IT, but that doesn't necessarily qualify you to have perfect empathy for everyone else in the organization. And so what this kind of does, that's what we made QSTAC for, right? To kind of, bring data and make, basically empiricize empathy, right? Like teach people how to have empathy in a really easy way. But a lot of folks just are not open to new ways of thinking. And if you tell them anything different, they're not down with it, so.
All right, so I want to run with this a little bit because I'm thinking CSAT or just customer satisfaction. You handle a ticket for somebody, and when you're done, you do the old NPS on a scale of 1 to 10. How likely are you to recommend the help desk? Something like that. That's a really common method for gauging somebody's satisfaction after handling a support ticket. How does your solution differ from that? Like, because I know if you ask the more questions you ask a customer, the less likely they are to want to answer them. So, what are the things that you're asking? Like, how is it different than just NPS?
Exactly. We actually wanted to use NPS. Like part of the reason that I did QSTAC was that NPS just didn't work for the IT support version of it. I mean, NPS is a really great score to tell you kind of where you rank and where you benchmark with other people in your industry. But what it doesn't do is tell you how to fix it. And what we had also, when you're leaving large orgs, a lot of times you have IT managers, and sometimes, I don't know if your experience in IT is like this, but a lot of times the people that get promoted to management in IT aren't necessarily the best at IT. They're just kind of the people who maybe brown nose more or a little
stuck
more
it out the longest,
or not even that good at management.
See, that's been my experience right there. Is that they were great at IT, but they were a piss poor manager.
Yeah, and that happens, But you go to war with the army you have, and not the army that you want. And so what QSTAC does is actually tells you, first of all, it's more. We've done studies, so it's as reliable as NPS, much more reliable than CSAT. CSAT, just if you you can do any study you want, and you can check my research or anyone else's research. It's just not a scientific measurement. It's cute. It's insightful. It tells you what it is. But I mean, averaging smiley faces together or a Likert scale averaging is not a good way to codify behavior. And I could definitely talk ages about that from my psychology days. But so CSAT's not accurate enough. NPS is accurate, but it's not prescriptive. It doesn't tell you what to do. So what QSTAC does is actually, first of all, it breaks it up into quality, approachability, speed, communication to kind of give you more insight. But then for each of those, it actually tells you from your end user's point of view what you can actually do to fix it. And so even if you have a manager that's not great at managing, you don't have to worry about his ideas or her ideas. You can actually, your data is actually what the people who you're supporting want. And then, so that kind of democratizes the right idea. You can use that. And even if they're a terrible manager, if they just get out of the way and let the data-driven strategy drive, you're good to go. And we see the scores go like that.
Just to put Daniel's comments in context there, Don used to be his direct manager.
Actually, Daniel and I together, we've got some stories. So we worked with a gentleman who was like literally incapable of making decisions in under 4 weeks. That it was just, that was his time frame.
So
He was so
y'all
paralyzed.
work for a corporation?
Yeah, we did. Office space took on a whole new meaning.
Yeah, you're like, that place looks efficient.
You're like, man, this drill could be used to fix this,
was
or
like-
self-trepanation.
We also had that big banner said, "Is this good for the company?"
I can't tell if you're joking, and that's sad. So, Ben, I'm curious, what's the best way for people that want to learn more about QSTAC? Where do we look?
You can go to QSTAC.com or QSTAC.com/demo. It's QSTAC if you're on the audio. And check it out. We'll give you a demo. You can, LinkedIn's probably the best way. If you go to LinkedIn/IN/Ben Brennan, hit me up directly. I actually love just talking shop, even if it's not sales. I have the luxury now of doing all strategy and I don't have to execute it all. So I'm happy to talk strategy about your company for free as long as I don't have to actually execute along with you. But if you want to talk about QSTAC, I'd love to help you out. People are having a lot of good success. And we're really excited. It's not, just bringing a little data and math and science is a lot better than the flat earther lifestyle. And everyone does better, makes more money. I definitely recommend my own company.
So every time you say flat, for some reason, I just imagine a rack of servers on the back of an old tortoise, just like walking along through like space.
Is that wrong? Is that not how it is?
That is not how it is, Peter.
So, Ben, before we let you go, let me ask a quick question. What's your relationship with HDI? I know this article was posted on Think HDI.
Well, I think HDI, I'm kind of indebted to them forever because they're actually where I got the first research. So I was, a social scientist before. So when I got into IT, I didn't really, and this is not a plug for them, they don't pay me anything, but they were actually the first place I found that had like white papers and research about surveys and about CSAT and stuff like that. Because I knew a lot about self-report data, but I knew nothing about really IT when I started, and definitely didn't know like the history of that. So it was actually their research that helped me kind of figure out and go. We started from like 30 categories that we wanted to measure. And like you mentioned, like it's surveys, you do not want to take people's time. So we got it down to this 20-second mobile-friendly slick survey where boom, 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 you just do 5 little ratings. And I won't go on about the product, but HDI gave us the initial research that allowed us to really, build something based on data and not our hunch or instinct. And since then, I speak at their conference. I'm a featured contributor. That's where that article came from. And they're really great folks, and they've supported me a lot. So I like to, give back to them whenever I can.
And for our listeners who aren't familiar, HDI is the Help Desk Institute. I don't know all the history. Like they split off somehow from ITSMF years ago from service management, but they focus on help desk and how you can do a better job and have the right resources and stuff. So if you work in that environment, if you're a help desk manager or you work in help desk, you can really benefit a lot from going to their site and reading articles like Ben's.
I thought it was the Home Depot Institute, so thank you for clearing that up.
Yep.
It's just 2 by 4s and plywood.
Yeah, you can make a birdhouse.
But what's really important is what is your favorite guitar lick to play?
So my favorite guitar lick to play right now is, let's see, I've been playing a lot of Grateful Dead, which isn't very licky.
No.
But I'll say I like this is a hot take, but Tom Petty's Honeybee, that
Copyright laws don't think too much.
Yeah. I could only play 4 bars, but look it up on Spotify. Tom Petty's Honeybee. To me, it's a really sick riff and accessible and easy to play.
And we're from Gainesville, Florida here, so the home
That's
of
right.
Tom Petty. So that rings true for us, definitely. And I think I heard earlier, I'm not sure that there might have been a book. So Badass IT Support available on Amazon, I think is the only place you're legally allowed to buy books anymore. So definitely check that out. And you mentioned conferences too. Do you have any coming up, virtual shows or anything like that you've got speaking events?
Yeah. So I'm speaking at it's so weird now because they're like virtual. So I'm speaking from this. I'll be in my office presenting.
Call.
Yeah. But for the HDI support world, which is not in Vegas this year, but actually I guess in my room. So I'm speaking at there. I'm actually talking about a pretty cool topic, like what to do after you hit world-class support, because everyone loves to talk about world-class support. No one ever gets there, but I've been lucky enough to work with a few teams who actually have, and talking about the turn where what do you do when you actually catch the mouse, when you actually meet your goal? Like, what do you do next? So I'm excited about that. And embarrassingly, there's another talk that I'm doing in a couple months that I don't remember what it's called. But I don't know. Look, find me on LinkedIn, follow me, and I'd love to hear from you.
You've got time to prepare for it, so yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It'll be great, though, I'm sure.
After that talk, make sure you fill out the survey.
Yeah, please do.
Well, Ben, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. So fun to hang out with you guys. Can't wait to see the rest of the show. Talk to you soon.
Sounds good. And we're going to get to some news in just a second, but stay tuned. We've got more Technado coming up right after this break.
Do you know what's better than being an IT Pro TV member? Being a member for free. Hi, I'm Don Pizzette, co-founder and edutainer here at IT Pro TV. Once you sign up for an IT Pro TV personal membership subscription, you'll automatically be part of our referral program. Then all you have to do is share your personal referral link and code with your friends and colleagues. Every time one signs up, you get money off your subscription. Sign up enough and your membership is free. That's right, access to all your favorite IT training, totally free. Kind of feels like stealing, doesn't it? Check out the link below to learn how to get your code and start sharing today.
All right, welcome back to Technado with Don Pizzette, and thank you so much to Ben for taking the time with us today and helping us all become a little bit more badass. We appreciate that. But we've got a lot of news to get to, and as Don said, not very security focused, so we'll see if that holds true. Our first article is from Anandtech.
Anandtech, yeah.
Anandtech, yeah. Okay. Intel reorganizes in wake of 7-nanometer woes. Chief Engineering Officer, oh, jeez. I asked about nanometer. I said NM, that's where it's nanometer, right? Didn't get to the second line. Murthy Renduchintala to depart. Well,
if it makes you feel any better, you could have asked. None of us could have helped.
Well, this reminds me of Office Space, where they're like, Sahir, not going to work here anymore. So I don't need to learn Murthy's name because Murthy's out because of the 7-nanometer woes.
Is it just me, or every time I see the word reorganizes and there's a large corporation, I'm like, a bunch of people just got fired.
Yeah, that's all that means.
Yeah, reorganize is like a nice way to say layoff, which is a nice way to say fired.
Yeah.
So Intel is under siege right now. Last year, we saw AMD really crank up the pressure on creating some great CPUs while Intel was mired in dealing with security concerns. This year, that has continued. AMD is eating Intel's lunch left and right. You also have ARM coming in and just dominating the mobile market. For the many devices, ARM is actually doing the design of the chips that we use. But even for like Apple devices, it's the ARM instruction set that's being used. So ARM is everywhere. AMD is kicking butt on the desktop, and Intel is under siege. Well, they have been just repeatedly saying, hey, as soon as our 7-nanometer presses get going and we start creating these smaller processors, they'll be way more power efficient, so you don't need ARM, and you'll have full compatibility with all the past Intel processors. This is going to be their saving grace. Unfortunately, their 7-nanometer process is totally botched. So bad that they had to push it back an entire year. There will be no 7-nanometer processors coming out of Intel in 2021 or in 2020, and it'll probably be the end of 2021 before we see any. That is bad for Intel. So they fired their main chief engineering officer. So that's a big thing. They're having to revamp that whole process, and it means that if ever AMD and ARM are going to succeed, then it looks like 2020 and 2021 are going to be the years that happens.
And it says they're breaking up the technology, systems, architecture, and client group into several smaller groups. Because
it's about time.
If I know anything, it's, don't get all the people in a room. Put them all in separate rooms.
Yes.
And just find
And they all have to fight Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
Because this is under siege.
In a velour.
Seems like everybody would have learned from Microsoft on this one. Like when Microsoft broke everything up into teams that all started breaking apart, and they had to kind of tie it all under Satya Nadella again. Like he had to step in.
Yeah, because you might have, one team starts making them 7.5 nanometers, and there's a 6 3/4.
That's exactly
the other room.
7 deadly nanometers.
I'm not sure how any of that works, apparently. But so this is kind of just one of those things that we will keep an eye on and see maybe if somebody new steps in and tries to right the ship, or if Intel just falls apart. So sell your Intel stock now and buy AMD.
I think even at the end of last year, when everything was looking bad for Intel, people still said, look, Intel has dominated the market for so long and they're not going anywhere. Now it's starting to look a little dicey. Like, potentially we could see some shifts there. Intel could fall into the second place.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, what was botched? Were they like, hey, oh man, this is broke? Or were they making 6 5/8 nanometers and it was all
fit.
It was a 10 millimeter nanometer.
Yeah. My understanding of it, and I'm not an engineer, is just that the failure rate was too high. So, when they make these, they make 100 or 1,000 at a time or whatever, and they had well over a 50% failure rate on those yields. So that makes it a non-profitable thing. They've got to get that down to a smaller number. They always anticipate a certain amount of failures. When you think about how many microtransistors are on a CPU, it's millions, right? And any one of them could fail. So it takes a lot of work, and the smaller it is, the harder it is to do. So this is a big challenge. They just weren't able to get it done in the time frame, and now their stock is falling, and they're under a lot of pressure.
Sell them for twice as much, baby. That's the way to go.
Yeah, less nanometers, more profit.
Is that, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't that part of AMD's proposition? Like they did some things a couple of years back where like if they would have a chip that had a failed core, then they would sell it as like a 3-core?
Yeah. So
Did they really?
Yeah. So they had their graphics cards, their Radeon cards. They would try and make them with like 8 cores. And if 1 core failed, they would throttle it down to 6 and sell it as a 6-core card. Or if more than 3 failed, then they would throttle it down to 4 cores and sell it that way. And so some people found when they could unlock and get like 5 cores or 7 cores. But yeah, that was what they did. That was how they covered the failure rate.
It's actually kind of smart.
And this actually says that the new woman in charge, Dr. Ann Kelleher, is going to be tasked with developing Intel's 7 and 5 nanometer process nodes. So they're even getting smaller.
If there's one thing I know, if they can't get 7 to work, they'll definitely get
just go
5
for
to
5.
work.
Yeah.
They're going to be so small soon that you can't.
They're like, listen, we're already making 6 5/8. All we need to do is cut off that 1 5/8 nanometers, and we're right at 5.
They should start just selling empty, like little, clamshell containers. Be like, oh no, it's in there. You just can't see it. It's like 0.0 nanometers.
Does it have to be exactly 7 nanometers? Because if you're like, close, if you're 7 2/3 nanometers, you're technically still a 7 nanometer.
I'm sure that there's some actual engineer out there that's listening to this just yelling at his screen right now.
So I'm sure they have engineering tolerances, but they are tasty also. So yeah, you should try them. Intel chips.
Next.
All right, our next article is from VentureBeat.com. Nvidia collaborates with the University of Florida, go Gators, to build 700 petaflop AI supercomputer. And so we're actually, like I said earlier, in Gainesville, Florida, right down the road from UF. And so does that mean it's going to be here in Gainesville?
This is how Skynet starts. I don't want to be here
You
anymore.
you don't want to be on ground zero.
700 petaflop AI computer.
They're going to use it to solve the traffic problem. Hopefully.
No, they're not. That's an unsolvable problem.
No, they're putting the computer actually at the corner of Newberry Road and Tower Road, right in the middle.
Oh, that's what all that construction's for.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Anyway.
I learn something new every day. And the other day, my wife said to me, Don, did you know that the founder of Nvidia graduated from UF? And I said, no, I didn't know that. And she said, yeah, here, read this article. And she sends it to me. And sure enough, the founder of Nvidia, which is an engineer whose name has disappeared.
Can't be worse than Murthy.
He's actually
that was
he's
Mitchell.
actually a figment of AI's imagination.
It was well, I can't find it, but anyhow, whatever the founder's name was, it was a UF graduate, and so he decided to team up, and they're building this supercomputer called the Hypergator, which is kind of cool. So that's supposed to be 18 times as powerful as the one at the University of Texas at Austin. So pretty cool, being built out. It's got something like 1,120 NVIDIA A100 Tensor Core GPUs. So it's capable of doing quite a bit. And they're going to be using it to power an AI application suite. So doing artificial intelligence and other things there. So it was really cool. This is obviously not ripples through the IT community or anything, but it was neat to see this happening right here in our own backyard, because sometimes you lose track of who graduated from UF.
The gentleman's name is Chris Malachowski.
Oh, that's it.
And if you search him, the first image that shows up is him standing next to their corporate plane, showing off his Nvidia tattoo on his arm. So,
Well,
I'll be.
I mean, if I had something that made me that kind of money, I'd probably get it tattooed too.
Yeah, I would think so. That makes a lot of
I'd
sense.
take the money I made off of it and make other people get tattoos.
Yeah, by creating an AI supercomputer
That's right.
that convinces them to get tattoos for product branding.
I need to get an Nvidia tattoo. My life is incomplete.
Are they going to suck up all of the internet around town now? Or am I going to have any?
UF's on the old Lambda rail, so they actually have way more bandwidth than any of us do anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Is the power gonna go out more?
Unless you're streaming the World Cup when I was in grad school. And it became so bad that there was like mass emails and they started blocking streaming services because it was taking the internet down on campus.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
a lot of soccer.
Yeah.
All right, good to know. So we'll keep an eye on that one as well, and maybe when it's all done, they'll give us a little tour.
I wonder where they are going to build that though.
Oh, they did say, I thought in the article that it was
Do they?
going to be that they're creating a
whole building for it? Probably.
Yeah, I
Because
think so.
they already have
Or
a couple
department.
They already have a couple of clusters on. So the CISE, there's like one next to that I think they have a cluster computer. It's not 700 petaflops.
They're
And
building
then-
the Nvidia AI Technology Center at UF.
There you go.
So, yep, they are building.
And you mentioned it's called the Hypergator, but it says they're enhancing the capabilities of UF's existing Hypergator supercomputer. So that's already something that exists.
Yeah, that might be the one that's next to the.
It's just an angry bull gator they keep it up.
Yeah, he's like, I swear if y'all hit me again with that cat.
Yeah, I heard they're demolishing the basketball arena and just putting it there. So
So this sounds like an interview we need to line up for a future podcast.
Definitely.
I bet we can get somebody to talk about it.
possibly that guy whose name I forgot now.
Chris Malachowski.
That's the one.
Machamanosky.
Sean and I. All right, our next article is
Dee
from
Snyder or something like
I
that.
believe, oh, yeah.
We're not
Be
gonna
awesome.
take-
I want that interview. Great. Our next article is from science.slashdot.org. NIST study finds that masks defeat most facial recognition algorithms, and I can say it definitely defeats the one on my iPhone.
Shocker.
What did I say wrong, Justin?
This article made me laugh out loud, which is why I had to put it on the podcast. Do you remember back in the 80s when there was that one senator who would do the Golden Fleece Award every year, and he called out this scientific study on why monkeys liked bananas, and they were saying, like, well, who cares why they like bananas? How is this, why is this getting government funding? So NIST, which is your U.S. tax dollars at work, if you're a U.S. citizen. If you're not, then think you're lucky stars in this case, because NIST did a study and found that if you wear a face mask, facial recognition doesn't work, which I think any iPhone on the planet can prove without having to do a multi-million-dollar governmental study. So good to know the government is at work and in our best interest.
So, unknown to you, Don, it was actually funded by the Juggalo Nation. It wasn't actually a face mask, it was a bunch of face paint. And they're like, see, it's a face mask.
NIST
Oh, that's-
partnered with the ICP to find out.
Yeah. So, on the flip side, if NIST can't define DevOps, then I have there's iffy on the results of. Did you know that if you wear a mask, then people can't recognize your face? I do. It's weird.
Did you know water is wet as hell?
Yeah. Did you know that fire will burn you?
When I saw this, at first I thought it was a joke because Slashdot does that sometimes. But I was like, wow, if you cover up 2/3 of your identifying features, facial recognition doesn't work. That doesn't even seem like you need a study for that. That's just dumb.
Yeah, but where else are you gonna get them Juggalo dollars?
Yeah.
They were paid in what was it, Fago? Is it Fago?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. It wasn't funded with actual money. It was just pallets upon pallets of Fago.
Makes sense. My favorite part of this article is next to it, and you guys have ad blockers, most of you. I've got an ad for masks.
Trying to defeat that software? Here you go.
Like this one over here will do it for you.
Thinking about committing crime?
Yeah.
Let us help.
You do feel like a criminal, though, every time you go in the grocery store.
Every time you go in a bank and brandish a firearm.
Yeah.
Oh man, I tell you what, when I'm putting like all those candy bars in my pockets, I mean not with the face mask on, but I definitely feel like a criminal.
Yeah.
Well, I I went into a firearm store the other day with a face mask on, and that's a weird feeling
And
right
he got
there.
shot.
Well, normally, yeah.
Yeah, do you need to they're like, please put your mask on and walk in with your arms out to the side. Just to show us. That's fun.
Yep.
All right, our next article is over at securityboulevard.com. So this is our one security article, at least. Well, it looks like the next one is as well. But Garmin users furious as ransomware freezes firm. There's been people just doing U-turns outside because wasn't this like 3 days or something?
And it was odd because that was before the ransomware. It works perfectly now.
Yeah, they had TomToms.
So when I first saw this, I thought the GPS units, and I'm like, who uses those anymore anyway? Who cares? But it goes on to mention that there's all the various fitness watches and tracker bands that they do. Apparently, Garmin pivoted a bit. They still make a lot of money off of their GPS stuff, but there's a lot of fitness equipment that they do, and a lot of airplanes still rely on Garmin navigational gear for loading their maps. And for a period of about 3 days, and I think it's actually extended a little longer now, but the company was effectively shut down by ransomware. And they've got backups, they can recover. They're going through that process right now. They're not, well, supposedly they're not paying the ransom. But what most people don't realize is if you do have backups and you're protected, it still takes time to get in and restore all those machines. And if you haven't patched whatever the flaw is that the ransomware exploited, then your machines are just going to get reinfected. So you've got to restore machines, keep them offline, solve the problem, and then bring them back online. And that takes time, which Garmin is going through right now. So a lot of people are upset about that. And it's mostly fitness people, which you kind of need to worry about because they're healthy. And then,
wrong with them?
Most of our parents that still use Garmin GPSs, which, like Peter said, they won't be able to find their way to Garmin to complain. So that's kind of the state of it. But it's just another big red flag warning to everybody. If you haven't planned for how you're going to handle a ransomware attack, then you're really leaving a big gap in your security procedures.
They were too busy running.
I've had to do a backup before, like from Time Machine. That junk takes a while, so I can only imagine that the Garmin cloud service is quite extensive and time consuming.
Yeah, it's a lot of maps.
They've
got all the roads.
I'll tell you, that junk can be. I had to work with map software back when I worked at Farm Bureau, and it was horrible. It was the worst thing ever. Updates were basically like pulling my own teeth out and then eating them. So that was a lot of fun. And I asked the people that ran it, I said, why don't we go with the competitor? They said, because there isn't one.
Yeah.
I said, that seems wrong. I don't like this anymore. It's not a fun game.
All right, well, that's why I use my phone for maps.
Like everybody else.
else.
Until you have no cell signal.
Print them out from MapQuest before I go anywhere.
For some reason, all I can think of with this Garmin thing is the crypto key for like getting rid of the ransomware is like geocached in a small treasure box. And the only way you can get to it is using a Garmin wristband, but then it's like a weird catch-22 because you're like, I can't use it. I can't find the key. We are so screwed. Oh, no. And then I'm like, yeah, but you're outside and you're sunburned anyway. So.
And that was like the big issue was you couldn't, like, all the data does not get stored locally. It all gets pushed up into their cloud service. And since that cloud service was offline, none of that junk worked.
Yeah, all those fitness trackers and stuff effectively become
useless.
Yeah.
Like, did your workout even count if you can't post it to Instagram?
Some people thought it didn't.
Here's the thing. At that point, if I was in an office pool for fitness, I would lie. Like, I ran 16 miles yesterday morning.
I didn't hear about this outage because I was just running.
Man, I saw you in the break room stuffing 2 cheese danishes down your throat.
Nah, bro. That was my other twin.
Yeah.
He does a lot of stuff.
That guy is a hungry person.
Justin's twin.
He's fatty.
All right. Next, I'm shocked to see that Don picked an article from BuzzFeed.
It's the best source of IT news.
But BuzzFeedNews.com has this article in its science section. A security breach exposed more than 1 million DNA profiles on a major genealogy database. First, GED match, which is where you go and find other people who have gotten their GED. The DNA database that helped identify the Golden State Killer was hacked. Then email addresses from its users were used in a phishing attack on another leading genealogy site, which I guess we'll just be left to guess which one that is. But
Match.com.
Is that it? Well, they do that to make sure that you're not related.
Cousins.
Yeah.
Or if you're from the hills, then they make sure you are cousins.
Yeah.
So this is the boogeyman story that has been told about biometrics for years, where people say, I only want to use passwords. I don't want to use my fingerprint because if a hacker steals my fingerprint, I can't change it, right? They've got my fingerprint or my retinal scan. Well, here, this is like the worst case scenario that not only do they have a ton of PII about you, they have your DNA. I don't think they actually stored a full DNA profile, so like they can't necessarily clone you, which would take a lot of work for a hacker. But if you think about it, like it is literally the most information somebody could hold on you, and you are unable to change any of it. It really shows the risk. And I know I personally have made fun of services like 23andMe and said, you got to be a sucker to send your data in on that. But I know numerous people here in the building with me that have done it and even have like their entire families done. Do we?
Peter, do you have something to tell
I was
us?
trying to give you an out there, Peter, because I do know other people in the building, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that was me. I also did one recently for my dog. Not 23andMe.
Are you related?
No, but I needed to find out. What,
So I tell you what, that'd be a huge red flag. Like, you are related. What?
By the way, 50% of my dog is just called mixed breed, which seems like a cop-out wisdom.
Yeah, much like the face mask article, I'm pretty sure I could have called that one for you without a blood sample.
Yeah, that's a mutt right there. 100% according to DNA.
So, Lowry, Justin, have you guys done any of this blood test stuff?
No, but no.
Justin's white, I know that.
No, so, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that I'm some form of
Northern European.
Yeah.
Me too.
Blonde hair, blue eyes.
I tell you what, Peter, you take half of what you paid to get that done, you give it to me, I'll go, you're Northern European.
Yeah.
The only thing we did find out, my mom is 0.01% Ashkenazi Jew, so we were able to get her a menorah so she can, do her thing while we're doing Christmas.
You know what?
What percentage?
Apparently a large amount of hackers also know that now.
Yeah.
But,
and her maiden name.
we did have some interesting discussions prior to the podcast about this, because I just feel weird about like volunteering just any part of my information. But then can you imagine being like the Golden State Killer? Did you see like a picture of him? No. He's like this old decrepit man. And they finally caught him.
Yeah.
And they were like, we got you.
Yeah, and by the way, you're 70% Irish.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just weird. I don't know. I feel weird about that because...
Well, the conversation kind of went down the road of they were able to, or at least from our understanding of the articles that we've read, is that basically from using DNA profiles on using companies like the GED match or whatever it's called, that they were able to extrapolate that this is the person because we have a DNA sample from one of the killings, or they had a partial sample. They had a partial profile. So they were able to go, well, this DNA profile and this DNA, and do deductive reasoning and figure out it must be this person who is the son of these two people, which have uploaded their information freely. And Justin was like, yeah, but they're figuring out who I am through stuff that I did not give.
It's hard for me to explain why I feel weird about it. And I've been trying, so since we've had this discussion, I've been trying to figure out a way to like explain why. It just seems like a private thing. Like, even though it is very much a valid reasoning technique, I don't know.
Well, see, I think this is where, and we're an IT podcast, but libertarians, their focus is on smaller government, less government involvement in people. And so here, like, law enforcement as an extension of government is tracking your family history. That does seem weird, right? But doing it for a good reason, trying to solve a crime. But then when the hackers get the data, that's a different story. And I don't know how the hackers will be able to use this maliciously yet. But maybe one day they do clone you, and all of a sudden...
I was going to say, you mentioned that Justin was eating two cheese danishes in the other room, and he said it was his twin. Could have easily been...
Or it's a chimera.
Yeah. So what's funny is we found out the hacker group is called the police. Oh, that's
shoot.
Oh, no. That's
Sting,
not right.
why would you do this?
So I've also been thinking about our previous article about the face mask. I think a more interesting research would be, how has violent crime changed, or any interpersonal crime changed now that more people are wearing masks? I think that's a more effective use other than, hey, did you know if you cover your face, people can't see who you are? But if you upload your DNA and we find out, we gonna get you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just
Now, we did discuss there was no violation of anybody's civil rights that we could see. Like everything was done voluntarily. The DNA that was discovered at one of the crime scenes, obviously.
but see, Peter's
the killer. Yeah, I thought we were
Because
talking about.
technically the hackers violated their civil rights.
I
but,
think
you know,
they did.
We're talking about gold.
So Peter did his entire family. Just looking at us, I suspect somewhere along the line.
You're related.
Yeah, I'll just
We're
photocopy
related.
mine for you, and you can be like, yeah, that's what I am too.
Yeah, that's me. It says Peter. That's the same. Yeah, but then Peter did his, and then somehow I get trumped up on murder charges because Peter put his DNA in there.
I used your name though.
You're Chimera.
I don't think it would be trumped up at that point. I think
No,
they've
I'm
got
going
a
to say
fairly
trumped
high
up
degree
because
of
now I have
accuracy.
plausible deniability.
I did it. I don't know what took them so long to.
Actually, that was another point. Like when you upload that, hey Peter, did you have to verify that? Yes, this is my DNA that I'm registering under this name.
Oh, I didn't think about that. You send somebody else's blood.
I don't think so.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's
So
that's
I
a
thought
good attack.
it's like self-confirming, right? So all they have to do is take a DNA sample and you go, oh, it's not him.
Yeah, you just poop in a box and
Peter, that's a different test.
Oh, there's a different. That was
They're
the
like,
colonoscopy.
where is the swab that came? It's in that bowl. You get it.
Yeah. Also, your bag wasn't big enough, so I got a 13-gallon trash bag.
All right. Yeah. This
Hey,
is
did
box
you know
one
these,
of two.
If it fits, it ships boxes are just the right size.
But it doesn't matter whether they're soggy or a biohazard.
Now, did you struggle with saying if it fits, it ships? Because in my head, that came out very differently.
Yeah. No, luckily it didn't hit me, but now that if I had to say it again, it'd be all over. Yeah.
that should be that pooping in a box companies.
But yeah, it is self-verifying as far as the DNA, but like, could you have swabbed my mouth and sent it under your name easily?
yeah. I mean, you fill out an online profile.
I mean,
so you just
like
put
if
your
they
own
wanted to
name.
confirm it, as we said, they'll say, hey, Justin, this looks like you. We're going to make sure this is the case, but...
Plus, it would be interesting if they're doing that kind of like extrapolating data where they figured out, oh, you're not this person's son. Either there's some weird shenanigans going on where you stole a child
You
and
are
told him
not
you're
the father.
Yeah. So there would probably be...
We also figured out that your daddy was on a milk route at the same time.
I also sent in a possum's DNA for my dog.
Nice.
Yeah.
Catching it was
50% mutt.
Hey,
That would be fun just to see what.
let's
you get
eat
this
trash
back
and go
and
get
it's
hit by cars.
Purebred golden retriever.
Yeah, exactly. But that is a funny $70 joke. All right, want to let you know about a webinar we have coming up. Our next one is 3 things you need to know before starting your own IT business, where Don Pizzette is going to be talking with Tom Lawrence, who we've actually had on the podcast before, and some webinars. He is an MSP owner, and so we'll be looking at that on Thursday, August 6th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. You can head over to itpro.tv/webinars and sign up for that one. And also, while you're on that internet, head over to go.itpro.tv/Technado, where you can get a 30% off coupon code and a 7-day free trial for your personal membership, or you can request information for a business plan where you can find out all the cool features available to businesses like the Pro Portal, and you can get a demo of that. So that's all at go.itpro.tv/Technado. And you're going to want to sign up even just for a free account before the end of this week, right? Right, Justin? Is that when Spin It to Win It's happening?
Yeah, end of this week.
Yeah, so we're going to have Lee McWhorter, who we had on.
I mean, that's what
weeks
Val
ago.
told me, so I was just telling you.
You take everything Val says with a grain of salt is all I know. But apparently this week we are doing Spin It to Win It, which is our kind of wheel-based
It's Hangman.
word guess. Yeah. Hangman with
prizes.
With points and not money.
And
just
no-
so we're clear, there's
no
no
murder.
money involved.
Yeah, very, very.
Or is there? Am I supposed to get paid extra for that?
Do you remember the old Wheel of Fortune when they had the showcase at the end and the
Yes.
people would pick
Yeah,
out
you
the
do
stuff?
like shopping. That was
Yeah.
the best
Great.
part.
I want the giant ceramic dog.
Always. Yeah,
I need
definitely
that
get
lazy boy recliner.
Yeah, I'd be like, can I just get the cash, please? Like a gift card? Anyway, so go ahead and check that out. Go to go.itpro.tv/Technado, and there you can find out all about signing up, and then you can watch that. It is this Friday at 2 o'clock. So check that out. All right, everybody. Thank you so much to Ben for joining us today again, and thank you, all of you, for that riveting discussion there.
Riveting.
Shut up.
Get on with it, Peter.
And with that, let's end it. We'll see you guys next time on Technado with Don Pizzette.